Good evening. Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday, May 9th. My days are so messed up right now. I'm sure yours are as well. As hot weather's here. I think we got cold weather coming, or rain hopefully coming in, but cooler temperatures as well. Welcome to the Chris Evans podcast, a part of Second Banana Media. We are also sharing these videos on Guthrie News page as well. And today we're going to discuss the trial. It has officially started here in the case with Timothy Greene, who is facing multiple charges here in Logan County. And we'll get into the details here in just a little bit on that deal. Oops. Went away for a second. So I will share what everything is going on here, as this is another jury trial here in Logan County. I don't cover all the trials here in Logan County, but obviously the ones of significance that a lot of people are following in this one here. A couple notes before we get started on the case and first day of testimony and what happened yesterday. That if you are a juror, there's 12 of you out there, and there's also one alternative juror. You're not supposed to be watching this, so this is the time for you to not even be looking at it, because you're not supposed to be doing anything with the name Timothy Greene in a trial here in Logan County. But it is time to exit stage left, because you're not supposed to be doing this. And I will, with this being on Segment Enemy, my personal podcast, I will show you what has been presented in the case. I will throw a little bit of my thoughts in this as well. I'll try to keep most of them out, but this is my personal podcast, and it's being shared on Guthrie News page, and an article and all that good stuff will be on Guthrie News page at a later time. But this just happened today and had a few errands to do. So here is the case and I will go over, there's multiple lawsuits as well, but this is a case that Guthrie News page was first to bring you back in May 25th, 2021. I don't know if anybody remembers that story, but it was an Uber driver was called to pick up a female at an Edmond bar and delivered to the house. But now there are 3 charges facing Timothy Greene. And when this article was written, if you see the article, it says first degree rape. Let me go ahead and stop real quick before we get any further in here. That has now been moved to a lesser charge of sexual battery. Obviously, first degree rape a little bit more significant than sexual battery, but that article, as you can see on the screen, was in 2021. Since then, there's been a lot of court hearings, and now that has been dropped to a sexual battery. 3 charges that Timothy Greene is facing. 1 is sexual battery, 2 is kidnapping, and 3 is grand larceny. Jury selection was yesterday on Monday, and there are 6 white males and 6 white females on the juror. There's 1 alternate, and he is a white male. Today in the courtroom, that jury selection took all day on Monday. So today, on Tuesday, was the very first day of testimony. There were 6 witnesses today, and this was a picture taken from the outside. I was outside in the hallway snapping a photo through the blinds on the door, if you're familiar with the courthouse. And that's Timothy Greene there in the middle with the glasses, and he is in the middle of his 2 attorneys, Ronald Jones, the lead attorney, to his left, holding the piece of paper there. And then Tom Stone is the attorney closest in that picture. And that is the 2 attorneys for Timothy Greene. The 2 attorneys are the Logan County District Attorney's Office is being represented by Debbie Vincent and Erica Aracho. I hope I said that right. Erica Aracho. Both of those obviously work for the District Attorney Laura Austin Thomas, and they are primarily out of the Payne County office. Obviously, Laura Austin Thomas, the District Attorney of Payne County and District County, District 9, and so they can do cases in both counties, and that's who is at the state's table, along with OSBI Special Agent Linda Stevens. So that kind of gives you the courtroom appearance there. This is in front of Judge Lewis Duell, presiding over this case. As far as people in the audience, Timothy Greene's mother introduced herself to me today. She was sitting to my immediate right. There were a couple of OSBI agents over to the left, and eventually I think there was an attorney there taking notes, as well as there was a civil case, a couple of civil cases in this as well. More on that here in a little bit. So that is what it looks like inside the Logan County courtroom. So after the Judge Duell talked to the jurors for a little bit, it was opening arguments to kind of get an idea of how this trial is going to take place. And the trial is expected to go through Friday. You never know how schedules go, but it is scheduled to go through Friday. So the jurors could have this as early as Friday. The state has possibly 18 witnesses. Don't have to call all of them. They called 6 today, so they got a pretty good start. But it's expected that they might be able to wrap up their case by Wednesday afternoon, and that would give the defense a few days to get their case in as well. Okay, I will go with some of the background information here that the state is saying that happened, and there with the victim here, I won't put it in the article, and I will refer to the victim as Jane Doe, or the victim. Her husband testified. I will testify him as the victim's husband. There was a friend. I will identify them as the victim's friend. I will try not to. Don't want to use any names for protection. I don't know how, how others do that, but that's just, I feel more comfortable leaving it as Jane Doe, victim's husband, and so forth and so on. So here's some of the details that that the state, the district attorney's office, is sharing here a little bit, and I will go in order here, so it's a little bit quicker for you to understand. There's I'll get into a little bit of testimony as well, but here's some of the background information. On the evening of May 14, 2021, Jane Doe celebrated her niece's recent engagement at a local bar in Edmond. Before going to the local bar, there was a band concert at Edmond Memorial High School, and then they went to a bar it's called Majors. I don't think it's too far from Edmond Memorial High School, but after Jane Doe became heavily intoxicated, and she testified, as well as her niece testified, that they believed to take maybe four shots and maybe 4 beers in a short amount of time. But anyway, she became heavily intoxicated, and her niece did the responsible thing and ordered an Uber to pick up Jane Doe from the bar and drive home safely. The Uber application, it was a friend. It'll be important here in a little bit. It was a friend who ordered that Uber because Jane Doe did not have that on her phone. Request to pick up the Uber. The defendant, Timothy Alexander Greene, did indeed pick up Jane Doe after that. And if everything went perfectly, it would take about 23 minutes to get back to Jane Doe's house. Jane Doe, I'll have a map here in a second. They actually reside. They live in Oklahoma County, not too far from the borderline, which is Waterloo Road. But eventually, Jane Doe would be found in Logan County, and that's why this case is in Logan County. And there's some other things that happen in Logan County that makes this a Logan County case. So Jane Doe is taken from the bar, and the next thing she remembers is waking up behind the steering wheel of an unfamiliar car. Unfamiliar car was parked in a residential garage attached to a house that the victim did not recognize in a neighborhood that she was not familiar with. It was still dark outside. She was barefoot. Her jeans were either inside out or turned around. Her purse was in the seat next to her, and her underwear strangely located in her purse. Her wallet and phone were missing from her purse. She was confused, so she made her way to the house that was, car was in the garage. She wakes up, doesn't know where she's at, doesn't know the house, so she rings the doorbell at the house that's conjoined with this garage. She came afraid, realizing that maybe she did not want to be there and to be stood on the other side because it's dark, it's late, and just afraid what someone might answer the door in a not happy mood. So she walked to the next door's neighbor house and rang their doorbell. The neighbors called 911, and Jane Doe sat on the porch, waited for Logan County deputies to arrive. When they arrived, they found out that her husband had been calling officials. So what had happened is, I'll fast forward here a little bit for you. What happened is, girls at a bar, she becomes too intoxicated, and so one of the friends orders her Uber. Well, the husband is at home with their 4 children, and becomes kind of suspicious that she's not home yet. Around, I'm not sure exactly what time. They didn't know either, between 10 and 11 p.m. So he gets his phone out, and we all have tracking devices on our phone. What a lot of people like the Live 360 or Find My iPhone, all that good stuff. And he sees that she's close near the intersection, and at an intersection, and realizes, and then he falls asleep thinking she's almost home. He kind of wakes back up and realizes she's still not home. He looks at the phone, sees we're at an intersection, so he gets in his truck, goes there, pulls up. He sees a black Jaguar, which is the Jaguar that Timothy Greene picked up the victim in. And the husband sees Timothy Greene outside of the black Jaguar, not wearing a shirt. And the husband says, "Hey, is everything okay?" And the husband says that the Timothy Greene said, "We're all right." Well, the husband does not know that the wife was put in an Uber. He has no idea in an Uber. So he goes to the black Jaguar, and Timothy Greene reportedly tells him, "We're all right." "We're all right" did not register in the husband's mind that it was his wife. Obviously not going to know. That could be another person in there. Or it could be just him. So the black Jaguar takes off. Well, the victim's husband looks at the phone and sees that his wife is tracking with the car, and the Jaguar darts off. The husband testified today that he just took off at a high rate of speed, and I think he said 95 miles an hour, which was dangerous. The husband was driving a 250 truck, so it was hard to turn around. By the time he turned around, the Jaguar was gone. And so the husband is now going up and down Waterloo Road trying to find this car. As he stops and kind of considers what's going on, he looks at the phone again, at a tracking device, at another intersection, and realizes that it's now pinging, her phone's pinging, in a residential area off of Waterloo Road. And this time, the husband says that he sees his wife's hair. He didn't see her face, but saw her hair, and realized that she was inside the vehicle. And so with the door, she was in the front passenger seat. He said he was able to grab her arm, elbow area, but that the driver, Timothy Greene, had taken off, and that her feet were dragging a little bit. And the residential area is one way in, one way out. And so the husband got in the truck, tried to get to the intersection before he can get out, but he was unable to block it. The driver, Timothy Greene, reportedly was able to get away. At that time, the phone is thrown out the vehicle's door. So I'm going to show you a quick map here so you can kind of get an idea of what the area looks like. So this is Waterloo Road. It's obviously the dividing line between Oklahoma County down here and Logan County up in the north area. If you're watching this on YouTube, if it's on the audio podcast, just Waterloo Road. Logan County is north of Waterloo Road, and Oklahoma County is south of Waterloo Road. The victim lives near the intersection of Waterloo and Westminster Road, and on the map, and they did this in court. This is just a map here, but it was somewhere in this area, which would be west of Westminster on Waterloo Road, where the first encounter, where the husband saw the tracking device, asked if everything was all right. He said it was, and they drove off. And so the husband drives down Waterloo Road and stops at Douglas Boulevard, which is 2 miles from Westminster. And so at a time, he's able to look at his phone again, sees that his wife's phone is tracking in a residential area just north of the Douglas-Waterloo intersection. And they showed this in court today, and the husband was able to find the vehicle with the same subject, this time wearing a shirt. And then the husband said he was able to see his wife's hair and tried to get her out of the vehicle, but the vehicle took off. So it was somewhere in this area. And so here is the entrance, one way in, one way out. And it didn't specified, I can't say that word very good today. I need the water. It did not say if the husband went right or if the Uber driver went left. But anyway, it's a race, as you can see here, a little maze to get to this out here. Well, the husband says by the time he got here, the vehicle was already gone and unable to find. The phone, again, was left out here somewhere in this area. And the husband was unable to find it that night because it was early morning, pitch dark, late night, so unable to find that phone. The husband did not call 911 because he thought after Jane Doe failed to show up that was expected. Instead, learned the horrific reason why her husband had been calling 911 because they were looking for her as missing persons. Going over some notes here, and I'm going to repeat myself. Kind of getting the details here. The husband, when he sees the car, kind of go into more details here. Her husband stopped his car, asked the defendant Greene if he was okay. Defendant Greene said, "We're fine." Although that confused. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the first interaction there. Could not keep up. Keep out of the car. Okay. Once he arrived at the location where his wife was pinging, the husband saw Greene's car again, and this time he saw his wife's head. He testified to hair today, not much difference, but in the passenger seat. Jane Doe was trying to get out of the car with one hand and on the handle and one hand on the dash, trying to pull herself out. Jane Doe's husband immediately jumped out of the car, racing in his flip-flops to get her out quickly. Right as that happened, the reached in the confused wife. Jane Doe fell back into the car, and Greene sped off with the victim still inside and the door open. She was hanging on for dear life, her legs and knees outside of the car door. I mentioned the iPhone thrown out of the window, so now no longer to be able to track her location. And so now the husband is calling multiple law enforcement agencies, including the Logan County Sheriff's Office. Approximately 7 hours later, Jane Doe learned of her husband's of trying to find her when she woke up inside that car in a random garage. Her body was bruised with bumps everywhere. Her left foot and ankle were numb with a huge bruise. She was stiff and sore all over her body. She had a tear in her lower back and bulging discs. She had not had any of these injuries prior to getting into the defendant Greene's Uber's vehicle. And a little bit more evidence came out today during the time at the Edmond bar that when she was heavily intoxicated, and she admitted it, that heavily intoxicated, and her niece also admitted they were heavily intoxicated. But at the bar, the Jane Doe, the victim, fell over a chair, and she said she suffered injuries from there. So some of these injuries were testified that it did happen at the bar. So not all the injuries involved inside the vehicle or whatever made it happen. And we'll get to the other side of the story here in just a second. But the victim was taken to Stillwater Medical Center, for a SANE test, which is a sexual assault nurse examiner, and they had shown more bruises, abrasions, scratches, and on her knees, a large bruise on her left calf, more abrasions and scratches on the body. The nurse also documented debris and grass in and around the vaginal and buttocks area. Testimony today, Jane Doe said there was grass in her private parts and that she had scratches on her buttocks, is how she described it on the witness stand today. And then obviously Timothy Greene was arrested and charged with sexual battery, kidnapping, and grand larceny. The victim, about 38 years old at this time, and she testified again that she has no memory of anything, that she kind of woke up in a foggy type feel to her. And that's going to be important here a little bit, because I'll go ahead and tell you now, this case brought on some more information. There's reportedly 2 other victims that this allegedly happened to. One of the women testified today. It's expected that another woman will testify tomorrow. We'll see if that's the case. But when you do this, and it's all very similar situations, I'll get to the testimony of the witness today, the victim that took place in 2019. There's some similarities in this one as well, as far as memory and being drowsy and not remembering a whole lot. So as far as the defense, the attorney for Timothy Greene, Ronald Jones, the lead attorney, gave his opening arguments, and obviously the state went first, and it was fairly quick. A lot of stuff that I just went over with was in their opening arguments. But as far as the defense, Timothy Greene, we kind of got an idea of where they're going to go with their case. And I thought Ronald Jones, his attorney, is very animated. He has a lot of facial reaction in the courtroom. And he really went on. I mean, he went into testimony a little bit more. There was a few objections from the state that he was giving more of a testimony instead, without being presented yet. So he was, usually open arguments is kind of a little bit of a broad, but he was going into detail. The state stopped it a few times. The judge also had to stop him a few times as well from going too far into detail, because he went into a lot of details. In fact, I think it might have hurt him a little bit, because I saw toward the end, jurors were getting a little, I don't know, aggravated, but I don't know if annoyed is the right way either, but they were just kind of, you can kind of see them looking at their hands a little bit, like they were maybe like, this is a little too much. It just kind of went on and on, but that was just what I was able to see. Another part of this case, before I get to the defense here, another part of this case is that this female victim, Jane Doe, works at the Attorney General's office, part of a counsel there at the State Attorney General's office. Her husband works closely with Homeland Security with ICE. So they're both well versed on police reports, how courtrooms work, how attorneys work. So that's another sidebar to the story here that we'll want to pay attention to as well. Doesn't really play a factor in this case, but it's good to have a little bit of background on that. As far as the defense for Timothy Greene, his attorney, Ronald Jones, his first words was, how a rumor starts If a woman says yes, a woman had something to lose and not willing to tell the truth. Rumor has now turned into a crime scene, is what Ronald Jones said. She said, and he was kind of all over the place, but I think what he was referring to was body worn camera after the police got there. But he says that she said, this can't get out because I'm an assistant attorney general, and she testified that it's not good to embarrass the attorney general's office, and she was afraid that she's going to get fired because she said she had blacked out, had no memory, so she had no idea what she did or didn't do, and so she didn't know if she had caused a scene or did something wrong. She woke up in a weird place, didn't know if she had done something wrong, so that's where she was wanting to talk about not wanting to embarrass the attorney general's office. But Ronald Jones, what I took, wanted the jurors to think that she was possibly having an affair. And that is where the defense is here, that when Timothy Greene picked up the victim, that she began rubbing and kissing on Timothy Greene, and they pulled out a Majors, and he said, the attorney said, I'm gonna make sure I get this right because it's a bad word and I'm not going to say it, but the attorney says, he said the word in court, but he said they pulled out a Majors, and according to his attorney, Timothy Greene's attorney, Ronald Jones, said that she told him, let's F. I think we sure would get that is. So then they go out, make out in a subdivision, and we haven't heard the defense side yet. So this is just what the attorney was kind of putting in his open argument. So hopefully this really makes it more clear here in the coming days when it's the defense turn to do that. But it kind of led on maybe that when the husband went to the vehicle for the first time at the Westminster and Waterloo intersection, when Timothy Greene was not wearing his shirt, and he said, we're all right. Did Timothy Greene get back in the car, and then he said the wife, get here 1 second, pulls in drive, wants to, they go to the back seat, they hook up outside of the car, that the female says offers oral sex, and then in return for oral sex, and the Ronald Jones, the attorney, used a chair to kind of demonstrate the passenger seat that, oral sex this way, return that way, is what he is telling jurors for the defense side of this stuff. The husband, again, pulls up, I forgot those parts, which kind of important part. The wife reportedly said, oh my God, that's my husband. He'll put a bullet in your head. And so that's the defense side of that they were making out inside the car, finds out that's my husband. And so maybe that's why Timothy Greene says he sped off that way. That's the defense side of the thing. So the defense side, it was consensual. That's what is their side of the story is. Just a whole bunch of stuff. They go phone records. The defense attorney, Ronald Jones, says phone records are huge. He claims that the victim deleted those messages. He says that Timothy Greene is a 5'6" accountant, that the female in this case was bigger and stronger. She is taller. I would probably say she is stronger, but it's not a huge difference between looking at both of them. I didn't think that, she was just really, really strong and can just have her way. But, as far as body size, again, the Ronald Jones continues to say, the victim says, no one can find us out, taken to the hospital. He kept saying phone evidence is important. That comes up a little bit here with the OSBI agent. So that was basically there. The first witness to be called was the victim's niece, and she said 4 or 5 shots, 5 or 6 beers, intoxicated, fallen, hit her knee at the Majors at the bar. Her friend called an Uber on her phone, the friend did, and that the niece walked the victim to the black Jaguar. And I think, later on we're going to see some evidence, and I think there's no doubt it was Timothy Greene driving. It was Timothy Greene's Jaguar. All that is on the receipt for the Uber receipt. So there's no doubt about that. They played a 911 call that. So the niece said she had a phone, but it was only connected to Wi-Fi. So the husband doesn't know where the wife's at, so he's calling her. Well, she's not getting these messages at the time. And the niece calls 911. She starts, as she hears this, she's crying, that she's scared. And she said, we got drunk, we got wasted, fell over a chair. And she watched the Uber driver drive away. And then she went back into the bar and had more time. The second witness to be called was the victim's husband. They had been married for 10 years. They have 4 children, ranging from 17 down to 7 years old. I mentioned earlier, it helps with fugitive operations for Homeland Security, dealing a lot with ICE. And again, it was kind of a lot of testimony on what he saw. I showed you with the map. What he saw at the intersection, at the second intersection, at the housing addition. It makes you pause a little bit, and you don't know anybody's relationship, but he had testified a few times that was she having an affair, was she cheating? If she was, then that's what adults, it's an adult deal. But there was a few times where affair and sexual encounters came up, like maybe like he thought. Remember, he didn't know where she was at. He didn't have any idea. So he's saying this stuff, and he talks really, really fast, and you can tell he's really animated. But so he was like looking for her, couldn't find her, so he had to go back home because he left his 4 kids at home by themselves. They were asleep, but they were home by themselves. But, he was basically, if she has an affair, and oh well, that type deal. So that's a little weird. I know some people talk that way, and was there history? I don't know, and it's not part of this deal here, not yet anyway. Maybe the defense will have something else, but it was kind of weird to hear that affair, and a few times did come up, but. Talking about find the phone. They spent a lot of time on the map that I just went over with. Again, on the stand, he said 2 things. Is she cheating on me or someone else, or is it something else? Called 911. If you're cheating on me, let me know. Adult thing, it happens. So, and then lunch break at 12:08, got back at 1:30. Little cross exam from the defense attorney. And the husband did confirm that he texted his wife and said, go F yourself. I mean, obviously he said the word out loud, or he texted the word, but it basically said, go F yourself. And he said, yeah, I sent that. So, people talk that way. And again, don't know any of the background, but that has nothing to do with this case here. Third witness to be called was the victim, Jane Doe. It was indeed Jane Doe. She confirmed a lot of the stuff that kind of went to a band concert at Memorial. After that, went to Majors right around 8 o'clock, had beer, Coors Light, and had tequila shots. Also says she was taking some diet pills, did not eat a lot during the day. So obviously not eating a lot. You throw in tequila shots, beer, you're probably going to be a little bit more intoxicated quicker anyway. She admitted that she drank regularly, alcohol regularly. Her last memory of the night was sitting at the table, and that she had given her niece a gift card to Victoria's Secret. Next memory, and she begins to cry, that was when she woke up dark. She was in and out in a car. Assumed her car. She assumed it was her car. Went to turn it on. There was no keys, and so she then realized that she was not her car. She grabbed her purse. There's no phone. Can't recall her car keys or where the car was. Why the car was in the garage. She was in a neighborhood that she didn't know. She left the house barefoot. She walked to the house barefoot. Didn't have shoes. The shoes were near the phone. She knocked on another house. They called 911. Deputies showed up. She had noticed that her underwear was in her purse, and that she had urinated on her jeans, and that her jeans were either inside out or backwards. And she corrected those in the garage. She said she has no recollection on how any of that happened. Law enforcement suggested to do the same test at Stillwater Medical. That happened. And also, the victim didn't know anything about the Uber driver being as well. She had no memory of any of this stuff, is what she testified to. She said, quote, "This will reflect poorly on me. Did not want her work, the Attorney General's office, to find out." And she also said from the witness stand that she can't say if what Greene did, if he did or did not. She couldn't remember, so she was not one of the accused, but she couldn't remember. She talked about the injuries. She talked about the scratches on her buttocks and the grass in her private parts of the vaginal area. And she does not recall Timothy Greene, the defendant in this case. Just kind of some more, kind of going over phone records. The phone records was kind of confusing back and forth, but you can tell Ronald Jones was spending a lot of time on that. He was going over the records about incoming, outgoing calls. There wasn't a whole lot of those. Some of them, I couldn't see them myself, but it looked like some of them were covered up, and so Ronald Jones was really, really hitting hard. And Linda Stevens, the OSBI agent, who we'll get to here in just a second, testified that that Timothy Greene's phone records were way more important than the victims in this one. But we'll get to that here in just a second. And it was back and forth. Are these phone records accurate? Again, remember, Ronald Jones, Greene's attorney, is saying that she deleted some information from the phone. There was never, from what I gathered, her phone was not taken to OSBI to be downloaded to find out all that type of information. Never did happen. All right, witness number 4. This is where it gets a little tricky for the defendant here, and there was a lot of court procedures before the hearing, the trial got started, but a victim said Jane Doe, we'll call her Jane Doe number 2. Jane Doe number 2 said she lived in Oklahoma City in 2019. She now lives in Utah, but on July 15th or 16th in July of 2019, she had a last-minute plan to go hang out at a party. She drove and got there around 10, 11 o'clock. She drank alcohol. She said 4 drinks of tequila. Her last memory wasn't, she couldn't even remember. She just remembered being at the party. She did not drive home, and that she remembers waking up daylight out of it, kind of woozy, just the same way as Jane Doe 1 woke up, didn't know what was going on. She didn't know how she got there. Remember, this is Jane Doe 1. Backseat of a car, and she said a black person was holding her down, hands on her shoulders. She couldn't move, and that she says she was being raped by a black male. She said she did not testify. She did not remember her face. Went to the hospital the same day. She admitted she took Zoloft for anxiety. Also, very important in this too, we'll talk about it here in a second, but In this Jane Doe 1 or Jane Doe 2 case, no charges were filed. So no charges were filed. And she at this time, Timothy Greene worked for Lyft. And the attorney brought up that she's a party to a civil lawsuit as well. So there's 2 civil lawsuits, and then the criminal lawsuit is going on here. And she said, I knew I was raped. And she had typed out a statement. Again, no charges were filed. She says she had no memory of taking any drugs. Lawsuit was filed July 16th, 2021 is when the first lawsuit was filed. Of course, Jane Doe also has filed a civil lawsuit. And I believe one of the attorneys in a civil suit was in the courtroom today checking that out. The 5th witness was Jane Doe 2's mother. This kind of gives you more of an idea of what maybe happened on that day according to testimony with Jane Doe number 2. She's a mom of 9 children, including the, I don't know if she's 23 at the time or 23 now, but she said that their children have a lot of people come and go, and that she had noticed a vehicle outside in the drive. Saw a couple, what she thought was a couple of people fighting in the, or playing, or whatever it might have been. I can't remember exact words. So, but didn't think anything about it. So she went upstairs, took a shower, and then I think she said did a little bit laundry as well. But she did not recognize the car. She saw a gentleman and her daughter in the back seat. So now she realizes that it's her daughter, and that she sees Timothy Greene. She identified Timothy Greene inside the courtroom. She described what he was wearing and the glasses and all that stuff. So she identified him. She said she saw him zipping his zipper up. It was a short black man, and that her daughter's clothes had been taken off from the waist down. And that she described how to pull her daughter out of the vehicle. And that Timothy Greene acted like it was consensual. And that Timothy Greene's car had a Lyft driver sticker on the car to say that he was a Lyft driver. She took a picture of the license plate. She asked Timothy Greene for information, but never gave her information. He said he looked like he was trying to find information, but she never got any information. Phone was left in the car. The sister was able to track the phone. Police retrieved the phone from the driver. And so that was the testimony from the Jane Doe 2's mother. And then it was Ronald Jones' turn to ask her questions. And he's like, you did not see your daughter take clothes off, meaning it could have been consensual. But she said, I saw him adjust himself, and that asked the daughter if the daughter had used any drugs. She said no. And then he alluded to, I don't know if it was a toxicology report. It never went to, again, it's a different case, so they're not trying that case here, but he kind of alluded to that there was 3 drugs, including meth, inside in a report. And the mom said, I'd never known her to take any of those drugs. So as a juror, perhaps, I'm sitting there. So Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 have this foggy memory of not remembering anything. All these actions happen in a car. All these actions happen both identifying Timothy Greene. So you're putting all this together of like, this might be something else. And my understanding, there's going to be a third person testify as early as tomorrow about maybe some of the same situation, or maybe a different situation, but definitely a situation with Timothy Greene. Again, they're not trying the Jane Doe 2's case, so they didn't get into a whole lot of more of that. They were just showing there's a history, trying to show that there's a history of one woman so far, maybe two. The sixth and final witness called to the stand today was OSBI Special Agent Linda Stevens. And there was a lot of back and forth on phone records because Jane Doe, in this case here in Logan County, shared text message log reports and phone records as well. It looked like to be on one page on each side. It wasn't a whole lot to it. Unable to see it. In fact, they were not shared with the jurors either. Now, I watch. I didn't say Siri. I don't know why that went off. Scared the bejesus out of me, though. Holy smokes. But obviously, those phone records and messages will be upstairs for the jurors to look at. And it seemed to be a huge deal to Ronald Jones. Didn't seem to be a big deal to OSBI Special Agent Linda Stevens, who said, the real information they want is comes from Timothy Greene's phone. Anyway, they talked about that, talking about search warrants for the vehicle. Ronald Jones kept going how important phone records are. I mean, he was adamant on the phone records for the victim in this case here. The lead, before Linda Stevens, the OSBI agent, gets involved, this happened May 15th, 16th of 2021. She was brought into this on May 18th. Logan County Sheriff's Office, or the District Attorney's Office, can't remember which one, requested that OSBI get involved. But before that, the lead investigator on this, or assigned to the case, was Brett Weldon of the Logan County Sheriff's Office. He's no longer with them, and I'm sure we will hear from Brett Weldon. I would certainly think he was the one of the first two deputies on the scene at the house to talk about that. But and so Brett Weldon and Linda Stevens are going back for some information, and the attorney, again, Ronald Jones, he was able to get some reactions today from I think from all six witnesses. He was able to get a little. Witnesses did a good job, but you can tell they were getting a little frustrated with the questioning. And to me, it sounds like, at times Ronald Jones was finding small victories, or what he thought was small victories, and then would give a grimace, like he would look at the jurors and start smiling, like I caught them in a lie, or caught them not saying what they, or saying what he didn't want them to say. But he had a little smirk, and he would look away, and he would ask a few things. So you can tell that he was kind of getting on the nerves of all six witnesses there. I don't know if that's on purpose or if that's his personality, but it's just as a person sitting in the courtroom, you can tell that his reactions triggered a little bit of emotion. Nothing crazy, but you can tell frustrated, because a lot of questions, they weren't understanding how to repeat the questions. And so but if Ronald Jones is watching this, I mean, it is exactly the way I saw it with his facial reactions, and he just smiles, and he looks at people. He looked at me a few times with a smile, like you see that, I got him. He kind of gives that little smile. It's how maybe that's just a nervous tick, but it's the way I took it as. So court was over today about 4:30. Lots and lots of information, obviously, in this case here, but 6 of the 18 possible witnesses testified today. And doesn't mean that the state will call all 12 left. I don't think they'll be, if they are called, I don't think they'll be on the stand a whole lot of time. But I think the state, as I mentioned earlier, will be able to wrap up their case as early as tomorrow afternoon, and then it'll be the defense turn. I think they'll have a day and a half if everything stays on schedule. So this would be a chance for the jurors to maybe get this case on Friday. So it's a overall view here. It's a one side is saying there was sexual assault by the Uber driver, Timothy Greene. Timothy Greene's defense is it was consensual. Haven't heard much of his side a whole lot yet. Kind of got an idea where it's going, but I have a few opinions. I think how this all came up, I'll probably save that for maybe tomorrow as I hear more evidence come into the case here. But that is the lowdown of day number 1. Day number 2, if you count jury selection, everything will start back up tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. Give it a few more seconds here. I have one more nugget. So if you stay till the very end, here's the first nugget. I've not put this on the on Guthrie News page yet. So if you're staying here, you're going to have a little bit nugget. But if there's any questions, throw one out there real quick. Hopefully it was not too confusing. There's a lot of parts involved in this case. Multiple cases in this one coming together. A few more seconds, I'll share this story. And I have not officially. Let me look it up. I was told this. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but let me see this with my own eyes here real quick. This is a totally different case. Give me 1 second here. I mean, I have tremendous sources on this, but it's just one of those deals you like to see it by yourself with your own eyes. Internet. All right. This happened in Payne County. Okay. Oh, they don't have good notes. They have horrible notes. May 5th, 2023. Oh, man. Okay, well, what I was told today, and again, I have good sources on this, but in the case of former Assistant District Attorney Kevin Etherington, I was told today that his bond was reduced and that he was able to make bond or will be making bond. I was told that the original bond, I believe, was $500,000 and that the bond was reduced to either $200,000 or $250,000. Remember, Kevin Etherington accused of sexual crimes against minors. The former Logan County, Payne County Assistant District Attorney, the lead Assistant District Attorney, and it was booked into Payne County Jail and then transferred to Tulsa County Jail. And I was told today that he was able to make bond. And I'm sure there's a lot of restrictions with that, but I will work on that for more information and get back with you, and obviously make that a news page article as well. So anyway, I don't see any questions, so hopefully if there are, just leave them in the comments on YouTube, or you can leave them on Facebook, and I will try to respond to those questions. But I'm sure we'll have a whole lot more information tomorrow. I think also tomorrow in this case, we might get the doctor that maybe took that test. So still a whole lot more to go on this trial. Today is just the first day of testimony. So with that, I will say good night. Hopefully we get some rain. The lakes, the rivers, the ponds all need that. So have a great evening. This is Chris Evans and the Chris Evans Podcast.